Hey everybody, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here on YouTube and over on Instagram, here for Flosstube number 13. So lucky 13 for some, unlucky 13 for others. I'm coming to you today on this beautiful Memorial Day, on the Monday, May 30th. So I hope everyone is having a good long weekend to those who were able to take part in it. So let's jump right into it. I had a busy month this month. I finished 2 projects. I started 3 or 4 more projects and then worked on a lot of others as well. Well, I shouldn't say a lot of others. Worked on a few more as well. I have not been able to iron anything today. It's been a bit of a go day, and I wanted to get this filmed before my work week starts, and then it just becomes much harder to film anything. I also got struck down with a stomach bug last week, which really knocked me for a loop. I honestly don't think I have ever had a stomach bug before in my life, so I should count myself lucky for that. But you know, it knocked me down for the day, and then pretty much just almost a full week, it just messed with me because I wasn't really eating, so I had no energy. So I had a week where I wasn't really stitching. I did get a lot done on my diamond painting though, because I was able to do that at least. You know, it doesn't require the concentration level that cross stitching does. I also think I had that finish hangover, where you finish a piece and then kind of just, where I finished one piece, it gave me the motivation to keep going. This other piece I finished, which I'll show you in a moment, kind of just knocked me down and just, you know, took it out of me. But let's get into showing you my finishes. Let's start with finishes. So my first finish is the Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery Nutcracker Parade. Here is a photo of what it looked like the last time you saw it. I was pretty close to the end. This is on a 28 count Monaco that I picked up from Michael's and then hand dyed myself with some just Rit dye that I threw in a couple of colors together to get the effect that I got. Again, I apologize for not having these ironed, but here is the finished piece. So the Nutcracker Parade, all done using all the called for colors. This one is Pattern Keeper compatible. It is not perfect in Pattern Keeper by any means. For some reason, it duplicates the symbols 3 or 4 times, which is a little annoying, but at least it's in Pattern Keeper. So therefore, for me, I like that because I can count my stitches, and then I personally feel like I make less mistakes in Pattern Keeper, especially when you have patterns that need to go across multiple pages. Being in Pattern Keeper just takes that out. So I don't need to worry about, you know, flipping from one page to the other. What's the overlap? Have I got the overlap right? That kind of thing. So I can deal with having symbols duplicated 3 or 4 times to be able to have it in Pattern Keeper. So that was finish number 1. Finish number 2 was Garden Prelude by Mirabilia. I will throw up a photo of the last time you saw it. So the last time you saw it, I had done all of the cross stitching and I just had the beading left to do. This is on a 32 count lugana in the color Loki by Fabrics by Stephanie. And let me tell you, I hate beading with a fiery passion. Absolutely hate it. But here she is, all finished. I did the skin 1/1, which I also was not a fan of. Sorry, trying to make sure I get this in there for you. But she is all finished. The beading's really only on like the flowers and stuff, which, I mean, you can't really, I don't think you can really tell in the camera's lens. And for me looking at it, I mean, it looks good. There were some beads I had to take out because this is a 32 count. Some of them just crowded a bit, so I just took them out, mainly around like those yellow flowers. But I don't like beading. I think it looks great, don't get me wrong, but I I've got a couple of other Mirabilias that I have. I've got Persephone and Miss New Year's Eve, I think. And for those, I'm going to look at potentially taking the beads out. And if there's something I can do to not do the beading or take out some of the beading. Because for me, it's not like the pain that it was. And it could be because what I should have done was start the beading on this side. Because then I could have put it in my Q-snap, at least some of it, which I did. I put the beading on this side on my Q-snap, get the beading done, and then as I move over, because of where I sit, I could have then had the beaded portion kind of sitting on to my right, and then had it in like a hoop or something to be able to complete the beading on the other section. Well, I didn't do that. I wasn't thinking when I started, and then trying to get the beading done on this side was a nightmare because my scroll frames are not wide enough to be able to put it, you know, lengthwise here. So I had to put it kind of this way in my scroll frame, and then hold my scroll frame just weirdly. And you know, one good blessing is I work from home most days. So I was using my lunch break to do the beading. So that way I had only a finite amount of time that I was beading. So I knew there was it wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna get all this beading done in a day. I had multiple days to kind of chip away at it. So I couldn't, by the time I was getting really frustrated, oh, my lunch break was over, back to work. And then I wouldn't work on it again until the next day. So it took me about 4 or 5 days to get that beading done, just chipping away at it slowly. I do have one of those tacky bill things. If you don't have one of those, I highly recommend them. I picked mine up from 123 Stitch. It's just like an old, like a small CD case almost. If anybody remembers those, that just has like sticky tape or sticky paper in there, so you can just like throw the beads in and then use your needle to pick them up. So it was great to be able to have basically all the beads I needed in that little tacky bill on both sides, you know, little clusters of each different color, and then I'm not having to pull beads out, put them away. You know, you just close that case at the end of the day. The beads stay in there, they don't move. So I do recommend a tacky bill or a tacky bob if you don't have one. But that is the 2 finishes I have. So I do have them in my logbook. If nobody saw, I did post a video a few weeks ago now of a logbook that I created for myself, where I have little project keeper tabs that I created. So I'm going to be able to, on this disbound system, so I can pull them out of my whip section, put them into my finishes section. So I'm going to be able to do that with 2 of my projects. I'm adding to it with the projects that I started this month. I didn't plan on starting this many. I was just having a bit of a, I think maybe the finish hangover. I just wanted to work on things that weren't whips. I wanted different things to work on. So I had, that means new starts, and that's, you know, that's nice and fun and things like that. So let's get into those new starts. One of the new starts was actually called for by my whip go call. So it was to stitch on a Stitchrovia piece for 1,000 stitches. I didn't have a Stitchrovia whip, so that means I needed to start one. And I decided to start, I've got 2 that I have the patterns for in my stash, and I decided to work on Awesome Myth. So this is the pattern here, or not the pattern, but a mock-up of the pattern. I picked this up off Stitchrovia's website, on Etsy. It is all using DMC. I am doing this on a 40 count verdal from Picture This Plus in the color Sand Dollar. It's like an off-white color, using all DMC. And this is a new start, so I don't have a previous photo. I'll try and not show you all the wrinkles. So here is where I am up to. I have done, sorry, I did write this down, 2,292 stitches. So I have Be So Awesome, and then the beginnings of the narwhal. His little horn is completed, and I'm working on his body now. This is 40 count, so it's so little, and I'm kind of mad at myself for not starting in like a corner, because the width is the width, that's this, and I've got all this space over here. I did start, you know, at the top, so I'm going to be able to, you know, have a lot of fabric left over at the bottom, but I wasted a lot of space on the sides, which I'm kind of frustrated at myself for not thinking a little bit more ahead and starting, not doing a top middle start, doing like a top left start. But it is what it is. Who's to say I would have even used the scrap fabric anyway if I had been that forward thinking. So that was new start number 1. If I can get this back in. New start number 2 was to replace the frosted pumpkin that I finished. I started another frosted pumpkin because I like to have one of them in my stash, I've decided, because they're very, to me, they're very easy. There's a lot of block colors. It's Pattern Keeper compatible. It's just kind of mindless stitching for me. So I started another one, which is Maple Lane. I'll put up a photo of what it will look like when it is finished. I don't have a printout of the photo with me, but there's a photo of what it looked like when it was finished. I am doing this on a 32 count lugana in the color, forgive me, Proserpina, I think. It was one of my fabric of the months from Under the Sea Fabrics. And I just have a small start on this one. Just that. So this one I did more intelligently. Do a top left start, so, you know, measured in from the sides and everything, so I could make sure that I'm getting the most out of this, you know, fat quarter of this fabric. So that is that one. I did 947 stitches on this one. Just a nice, like I say, frosted pumpkin for me, nice and kind of mindless stitching. Sorry, my hair is, we'll just move that over there. It keeps falling in my eyes. Now my next 2 new starts are 100% at the result of Holly, the cross stitch addict. She's been working on these 2 and I absolutely fell in love with them, so I have started them. One is, I've like pretty much 100% copied her as far as the fabric and everything. So the first one is Hive Rules by Primrose Cottage Stitches. And I am doing this on a 32 count white opalescent. This is actually still in the Q-snap because I've got it in the, you know, when you get something in the perfect position that it will allow you to stitch on it until you need to move the Q-snap again. But here is where I'm up to. So I've got Hive Rules and Be Sweet. This is another one where I've probably wasted a lot of fabric on the sides, but at least at the top, I started as close to the top as I could in my Q-snap, but this is just so cute. Using all the called for colors, all DMC. I'm not sure if you can get the, oh, there you go. It's my first time working on an opalescent, which I'm glad I started with just a white to help me see that as much as humanly possible. But how cute. So thanks, Holly, for giving me that one, putting that one in my head. The next one, another Holly enabling, is a Heaven and Earth Designs. So I did have a rule for myself that I only wanted to have 1 Heaven and Earth Designs at a time. But then I really wanted to start this one. So I broke my rule a little bit, but I also made myself get to 90% on my other Heaven and Earth Designs before I started this one, because I knew, well, I didn't know, but I worried that if I started this other one, then I would neglect my original and, you know, it would just then sit there for, you know, longer and longer. But I thought if I get to 90%, 90% is then that drive to be like, well, I'm so close to a finish that I need to keep chipping away at that other one. And so far that has worked. So this new one that I started is Alternative Reality by Josephine Wall. I started this on a 25 count 1/1 full cross. I did toy with doing 2/1 tent stitch, but I was just worried. And you know, I've seen so many people do 10 stitch. Suki, the brown-eyed stitcher, she's doing the Grand Library, or one of the big Amy Stewart's in 10 stitch, and it looks amazing, absolutely amazing. But then I was watching other people who have done 10 stitch on pieces and it's warped because of their tension or something like that. And I was worried about that. I thought, I don't want to do this piece, which is going to take me forever because it's like 120,000 stitches or something, and then find that it's warped, all because I wanted to get it done that bit faster and did the 10 stitch. Now I miss not being able to do the 10 stitch because the being able to do a loop start with 2 strands, but you know, is what it is. So I have started that. Here is where I'm up to. So not a whole lot to show. Like I said, this is 25 count 1/1 full cross. I've done 483 stitches. So you can't really see anything. I don't know if I'm loving this, the 25 count 1/1. It's very tiny, which, I mean, I've been working on 40 count stuff, and I know it's smaller than 40 count because technically it would be 50 if you did 2/2, right? Something, I don't know. And I just don't know if you're going to see the detail. But I mean, Heaven and Earth Designs wouldn't steer you wrong, right? And I know Jessie Marie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff. I think she does all of her full coverage on 25 count 1/1. And I've seen her pieces and they look great. So maybe I'm just am I calling it too early? And because, you know, it's not even 500 stitches. So there's not really anything to see yet. It's just blobs of color, very, very pretty colors. Or do I also start it on a higher count? I think I have some 18 count that I would just need to see if it measured right. Because again, I don't want to work on this for 6 months, get 10, 15, 20,000 stitches in and then not like it. So I'm torn on where to go from here. Do I keep plugging away until I get just a little bit more? The other thing is I didn't miscount. I do have enough fabric, but it's just enough fabric on the length. I need 18 inches to be able to get the stitch piece with 3-inch margin either side, and it's 18 inches. So that means I can't, for this first kind of section and the top row, I can't put it in my Q-snap because, you know, the Q-snap just kind of takes away more border because I can't really get up there into the corners. So I'm using a hoop for it, a Nerge hoop, which is not terrible by any means, but it's just, you know, the beauty of Q-snaps is just everything that it contains. You know, you put your grime guard on and everything's contained and not, you know, excess fabric flopping around. So if I keep going at it, I think I'm going to do the Royal Rose method, at least for the first row all the way across the top. So that way I can then put it into my Q-snap after hopefully the first 2 rows, but we shall see. But yeah, give me your advice. Do I keep plugging away at it? Do I, you know, and if I do keep plugging away at it, at what point do I stop? Because if I end up stopping, obviously the less I've done, the less thread I have quote unquote wasted on this piece. But let me know your thoughts. Okay, let me get that out of the way. Those are my new starts, my finishes. So let's get to work on, let's get to the whips I worked on for the month of May. So first off, we have my Heaven and Earth Designs. Oops, sorry, zipper sound. This is Faces of Faery 201, or The Black Swan by Jasmine Becket Griffith. Like I said, to get this done, I decided to work on this, well, originally at the beginning of the year, I decided I wanted to get this done by the end of 2023. So at the point at the beginning of the year when I started this, to get that done, I needed to do about 850 stitches a month to be able to be finished by the end of the year. Last month, April, I had I don't know if there was, you know, my pants on fire or whatever, but I did 4,000 stitches last month. I have decided I'm still going to keep to my 850. That just means I'm going to be finished sooner. So I worked on that this month. I did a little over 1,000 stitches. Yep, 1,118. I'm now at 94%. I finished an additional 16 colors because I'm at that point where, you know, I'm being able to knock some colors out. Here is what she looked like the last time you saw her. Again, I apologize, I did not get to iron any of this. And here is what she looks like now. So I have so much done. So I completed a lot of the colors that let me are up here and then down here. So she's got her full kind of, almost full dress with like all the feathers. Her mask is done. And now I just really have like face, more hair, and then shoulder with a little bit more of her dress, I think. But some of these I went, you can see I've got some hanging threads because I've got nowhere to anchor them at this point. But for some of them, it was, you know, this like randomness over here was because there was only those 1 or 2 stitches left in that color. And I wanted to be able to get it done so I could get it off the ring, put it back in my stash and not just have a whole floss drop sitting there waiting for me to get to this one color. So I just counted away and then, you know, just have the stitches over there waiting to be anchored later. Yeah, 94%. I think it's a little over 2,000 stitches. So if I do another June, July, August, I should be done in August at this rate, as long as I keep to my 850 stitches a month. I think I'll be done by like August, September, which is ahead of schedule, yay. The other piece I worked on is my Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery. So part 9 came out at the beginning of the month and I worked on it and completed it. I am so ridiculously proud of myself for keeping up with this stitch along every month. I make it the first thing I do. Depending on when the pattern comes out. If the pattern comes out like, you know, mid-ish day and I'm at work, then I'll start working on it that night. And if not, I will just work on something else, hopefully get that Whip Go Gold done and then move straight to this. So I have it done ideally in the first 5 or 6 days of the month, which helps if it becomes like if it's a gigantic release, which sometimes they have been. So here is a photo of what she looked like the last time you saw her. This is on a 32 count linen in the color Nightshade by Under the Sea Fabrics. It's one of the called for options for the stitch along. And here's where we are up to. So we had her arms and kind of more of these vines. And I just think Aaron's a genius. I mean, to make cross stitch a very one-dimensional thing with X's. Yes, there are fractional stitches in here, but you know, 90% of it, 99% of it is just crosses. To be able to make it look like draping is just talent, man. It's just absolute talent. So we have 10 and 11. So part 10 will be coming out on or about the 1st of June, which will be, I don't know where. I mean, I'm assuming something here, but that's just a 100% assumption on my part. I could be wrong. We still have something to do up here for those of us who did the alternate face. So we still have something coming up here. From his Dark Queen of the Seas, there was like something in the corners. So I don't know if there'll be something in the corners, but if it goes the same as Dark Queen of the Sea, so there's 11 parts of cross stitch and then the 12th part was beading. So I think we only have 2 months of like cross stitch left, but that's not to say he hasn't changed his mind or anything like that, which is fine. That's, you know, he's the designer, it's his prerogative. Oh, things are falling, sorry. Luckily it landed on a chair. So that is Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery, part 9. And then the final piece I worked on for the month was another Whip Go Call. It was my Twisted Rainbow Sampler. Sorry, zipper. Here is what it will look like when it's finished. Is this upside down? It's upside down, sorry. Not that it really matters, it can go either way. So that's what it will look like when it's finished. My Whip Go Call was to do one color, which I completed. It was a bluey green. Here is what it looked like the last time you saw it. Okay. Now I may as well just hold it from the top. And here is what it looks like now. Let me see if I can get it all in frame. So how stunning do all these colors look, just kind of like merging and changing. It's just stunning. I absolutely love this. This has actually been called again for Whip Go for this month. And it's a beautiful blue, a bright blue, 3844 I think is the color. And this next band is actually the last biggest. So it's, if that makes sense. So it is like 2,000 stitches, 2,000 and something stitches. And then every band after this is now smaller because we've kind of reached the highest kind of diagonal, I suppose, the largest diagonal that you can get, and everything from here then reduces. So I might end up doing, you know, 2 colors at a time if I decide to work on it. You know, if one of them is only like 500 stitches, I mean, if it's a weekend, I can knock that out in a day. So why not work on another color and have this finished at some point this century? So those are all the pieces I worked on for the month of May. The Whip Go calls for June were called. I can't remember what they were, the numbers, but for me, it's working on the Twisted Rainbow Sampler for one more color, and also to work on my Leela Studios Halloween Quaker for 1,000 stitches. I may actually cheat and start working on one of those today, just to give myself a little bit of a head start. Not that I foresee anything happening to kind of put me back off schedule, but you never know. And it's a nice afternoon to just sit and stitch. I mean, what afternoon isn't nice to just sit and stitch? But those are my plans. Work on my Whip Go. I am potentially going to take my Mirabilia to the framers to get a quote on what that will cost. Anybody who has advice on ironing a Mirabilia after the beading is on, I would greatly appreciate that. Like, do I just put a towel over it and obviously face down? I do have a padded ironing board, so it's not, you know, going straight onto metal, but I would like to get it ironed again before I send it off to the framers. I'll work on the Dark Queen part 10. I'll work on my Faces of Faery, and then probably just whatever else strikes my fancy. As far as haul goes, I have a little bit of haul, one of which was the fabric that my Hive Rules is on. It's on that 32 count sparkly white color. And then I have 2 fabric of the months. Again, my other fabric of the month is winging its way to me as we speak. It'll probably get here this afternoon. That's what happened to me last time. I filmed and then checked my letterbox and there was the fabric. So I probably should have done that again before, but you know, with the weekend, the long weekend, I thought it wasn't gonna happen. But so first off, I bought a Bella Filipina pattern. This is Magwayan. Should I get the, and I'm regretting, oh, not regretting, again, stunning piece, absolutely stunning piece. I'm working on the Maiden of Tabataha at the moment, and the beading on her is next level. It is a ridiculous amount of beading, which I haven't been able to see it in person completed, but when I've seen people on Flosstube showing their completed pieces, it looks amazing, like absolutely, like that it would be worth it. Whereas I don't think my Garden Prelude was worth it, which I think made, you know, put more of a bad taste in my mouth about beading because I just didn't think it enhanced the piece. The Bella Filipina, Maiden of Tapataha, I think enhances the piece. This, she's got like a little, I don't know if it's a headdress or something behind her, and then like a halo around her, but I can always look at potentially not doing that. But we shall see. Now I have the fabric of the months that I have. I'm part of two fabric of the month clubs. One is the Under the Sea fabrics, where I traditionally get a 32 count lugana or jobelin, and then the Bestitchme, where I get a 40 count verdal, and I'm in her neutrals club. So for the Bestitchme, the color we got last month, so this is actually I think April's fabric of the month, is the color Grog. Like I said, 40 count verdal. I won't take it out of the package, but just a beautiful neutral that can be used for just so many things, which is why I used to be part of her color and colors and neutral, where basically one month you'd get a color, the other month you'd get a neutral. But I bought a couple of patterns that call for more neutrals, so I thought I'm going to switch to just the neutrals for a couple of months, build up that stash so that I can, you know, potentially use those for those pieces, rather than having to buy more and then just having more stash sitting there. So I'm trying to think logically about all this fabric that I'm getting in these fabric of the month clubs and using them, rather than just having them pretty sitting there for me to look at. And I'm really enjoying working on 40 count. So I have the Awesome Myth by Stitchrovia. I have my Halloween Quaker on 40 count, and I really like the teeny tiny stitches and using only one strand of floss, and you know that the pieces overall are just going to be that little bit small, or in some cases a lot smaller. So, you know, I need to use this 40 count that I'm getting. The other one I got is the Under the Sea fabrics, and I have a 32 count lugana, and this is the color Rose Hips. So this beautiful rose color, you know, this pinky rose. Doesn't look like it'll have a ton of modeling, but that's the case with, you know, luganas and even weaves. They don't dye the same as linens or Aida, but that's okay. I don't have anything right now in mind for that, but you know, I'm not stopping buying patterns, and so I'm sure I will find a place for it at some point. But that's everything I worked on, my finishes, my starts. Thank you so much everybody for watching, for liking my videos, subscribing. Hello to all of my new subscribers from last month. I really appreciate you joining my channel, and all of you who continue to watch and like my videos. Thank you so much. I hope everybody has had an amazing weekend and will continue to have an amazing week ahead. Goodbye everybody.